Hello, Bumblebees, and welcome back to another episode of Teddy BB Bear Podfix. It's been a long time since talking to you guys. I had a bit of things come up in my personal life that I needed to spend some time on, but I'm hoping to get a little bit back into the swing of things, give you guys some episodes of Shadows, and I'd like to thank you very much to the guest hosts who have been filling in for me while I've been out, especially to Sai and Lauren. I really appreciate all the work that they've been doing to get content out for you guys. Um, and yeah, let's get into it. Back into Shadows. Today we'll be reading chapters 20 and 21 of Shadows, the horror movie Heroes, by Clouds. My Head in the Clouds, Not Coming Down, on AO3. Kyoka ran a little ahead of Midoriya as they left the warehouse behind. That had been the most chaotic thing she'd ever experienced, but even so, Kyoka skidded to a stop when she heard a gun cock behind her. "Midoriya, what are you doing?" "Making sure you understand the plan," Midoriya said simply. Kyoka hummed skeptically. "Hmm, and why does that require pointing a gun at me?" "It's insurance, just in case you don't agree," Midoriya explained. "And so you know what will happen if you don't follow the plan." "Oh?" Kyoka asked. "And what is the plan?" "You're not going to tell Sparky that we're the ones who killed his mom," Midoriya began. "Well, obviously not," Kyoka scoffed. "I thought Shinso was offing him right now." "No, he's more useful alive," Midoriya said thoughtfully. "A quirk like that has so much potential, and I want to see what he can do with it." Kyoka slowly turned to look at him. "Then why not keep them both alive?" "Because I can't manipulate a pro hero," Midoriya said. "At least, not for long. Her son, however, is a different story." "So you're gonna use him?" Kyoka asked. "And then what?" "That depends on how long he stays useful," Midoriya shrugged. "We told you before the exercise even began that we didn't care who we stabbed in the back." "Yeah, and you weren't lying," Kyoka sighed. "So what? If I tell him you killed his mom, you'll kill me?" "Yep," Midoriya smiled. "And since he won't listen to us if he knows, then you'll kill him too," Kyoka finished. "You're not giving me much of a choice here, are you?" "Well," Midoriya gestured to the gun, "you do have two options." Kyoka thought for a moment. She might be able to control him into letting her go, but Midoriya had eyes out everywhere, and it wouldn't take him long to find her again. And that was only if she could get away in the first place. He seemed to know how her quirk worked even better than she did, so he probably had already come up with a way to counter it. It seemed like a jerk move to lie to Sparky like that, but at the same time, why was she here? Her main goal, really her only goal, was to practice using One for All and learn how to use it better. So it only made sense to stick around as long as she could and get advice from the crazy quirk analyst, even if he was currently threatening her with a gun. Plus, she was supposed to be acting like a villain anyway, right? "So," Midoriya prompted, "are we on the same page?" Kyoka deflated. "Yeah. Now can we get going? We're wasting time." "Okay, did we accidentally hire middle school mob bosses?" Mike threw his hands up in the air. "Like, where do we even get these kids?" "They volunteered," Aizawa shot back. "They look like they're having fun at least," Midnight pointed out. Cementos grimaced. "I'm not sure that's a good thing. Look at how easily they took out a pro hero. If they decided to become real villains—" "Well then, it's a good thing they've applied to our hero course then," Nezu chirped. Aizawa groaned. "Problem children." Toshinori listened to the exchange nervously. He was starting to regret approving young Jiro's participation in the exercise. The more he thought about it, the more it seemed like a terrible idea for the future symbol of peace to pretend to be a villain for a week. He had thought that she wouldn't be too impacted by it, seeing as she was a future hero. But this villain duo, Shadows, had come out of nowhere and knocked the entire plan off the rails. He tapped on Gran Torino's shoulder nervously, and gestured towards the hall. The old geezer rolled his eyes, but followed Toshinori when he stood up and left. He could feel Nezu's curious eyes on them, and that made him as nervous as ever. But he was a symbol of peace. He wasn't about to be stopped just because the principal might judge him. The door snapped shut behind them, and Gran Torino crossed his arms. So, Toshinori, what is this about? We're missing the show. I'm concerned about young Jiro, Toshinori answered honestly. I think we should instruct her to pull out of the exercise. We can't do that, and you know it. Gran Torino shook his head. What? You can't stand to see your successor threatened? You know that as a hero, she'll face danger all the time. It's not that. Ah, so it's those boys. Gran smiled teasingly. The shadows. They're corrupting her, Toshinori insisted. They're downright villainous. Which is what the exercise calls for. Gran held his hands up in surrender. Look, I don't know what those boys have been planning, or what they're trying to accomplish. That green kid is a genius when it comes to quirks. And with her new quirk development, having a brainwasher to guide her is invaluable. Are you really considering taking her away from a resource like that? Toshinori sagged his shoulders. Why did it have to be brainwashing? It's so. Stop right there, Gran interrupted. If you judge her or start calling her a villain just because of a manifestation of the quirk that you gave her, then you might as well quit your job as a teacher now. I. You nothing, Gran punched his arm. You've got a lot to learn about teaching and working with teenagers, got it? So why don't you sit back and learn something for once? I. You're right, Toshinori surrendered. Let's go back inside. Denki wasn't sure what to think of his new friend, ally, person who had saved him from a group of superheroes. Hey, now that they were a street or two away from the fight, and his new companion had taken off his mask, Denki wasn't as afraid of actually talking to his rescuer. You never told me your name. The kid stopped running and gave Denki an appraising glance. You can call me Shadows for now. That's such a cool name, Denki grinned, as Shadows almost smiled. Does that mean I'll get your real name later? Maybe, Shadows said evasively. And you're Sparky, right? Denki blushed. That's just what my mom calls me. My name is Kaminari. Shadows looked around. The rendezvous point is just a little farther. Come on, let's get going. The others will be there soon. He started running again, and Denki scrambled after him. So, who are these others? Are they the same friends who are helping my mom? Yep. Shadow skidded to a stop and lifted up the manhole cover. This is the place. Denki gulped. This place is almost as creepy as you are, dude. I'll take that as a compliment. Shadow sounded like he was smiling. We had to find somewhere. We had to find someplace the heroes wouldn't look. Shadows didn't say anything else, just jumped down into the tunnel and expected Denki to follow. But that just made Denki even more curious about the whole thing. Just who was this kid? He seemed about the same age as Denki, but Shadows gave off this air of mystery that was just as intriguing as it was intimidating. Hey, you know who was shooting at us earlier? Denki asked. That was pretty scary, too. Shadows waited a moment before answering. There were people shooting. I think we arrived after that. Oh, Denki frowned. They're who my mom went after, so I was just curious. There was a sound of soft footsteps above them, and Denki tensed as someone removed the manhole cover. Two people dropped down, a shorter kid whose outfit matched Shadow's, and an attractive girl with purple hair. He waited a moment for his mom to drop down after them, but she didn't. Maybe Shadows had other friends who were helping her. He seemed cool enough that he must have tons of friends. How'd it go? Shadows asked. Any issues? The heroes didn't see us, the boy reported. I never thought I'd be grateful for having to avoid bullies, but I gotta say, it's effective stealth practice. So, you guys are Shadow's friends? Denki interrupted. So when are the others getting here? Shinso frowned. Others? Yeah, Denki said. The ones who were supposed to be helping my mom? The boy's face fell and he reached into his pocket. I'm sorry, the heroes, we just weren't fast enough. He took his hand out of his pocket, and Denki's blood ran cold as he recognized his mom's token. They killed her? Heroes, especially young ones, aren't the best at controlling their powers, the boy grimaced. I I don't think they meant to, but it was just enough for the teachers to call it a fatality. That's Denki took the token. But she's so strong. I'm sorry. Shadows put a hand on his shoulder. We need to get moving. Once the heroes finish off the villains at the warehouse, they'll be coming after us next. Right. Dinky wiped his eyes to get rid of the beginnings of tears and nodded. Shadows is right. We should get moving. Shadows? The girl slapped Shadow's arm. You only gave him your villain name? Shadows shrugged. You didn't need to know. The girl rolled her eyes. I'm sorry. These two like to call themselves shadows, but they enjoy being needlessly ominous and mysterious all the time. The tall one is Shinso, and the short one is Midoriya. Don't get on either of their bad sides. Oh, and now who's being needlessly ominous? Shadows. Shinso shot back. What can I say? Jiro smiled. I learned from the best. Now, let's get out of here. Miria was tired by the time they got back to the hero agency. They'd figured out that most of the people they'd taken down weren't villains at all, but instead civilians who had gotten caught up in a hostage situation. So they'd probably get points docked for that. They had managed to take down the Rose villain, but even after searching several blocks surrounding the warehouse, they weren't able to find the electric villain or the one who shot up the place. All that, and they only had one arrest and an objective to protect. It was okay, though. That's more than what they would have had without the anonymous tip. So Miria supposed they had a new ally going for them as well. Guys, thank goodness you're back. Shin ran up to them as they walked in the door. We found Hanzu's token. He's dead. How had this week gone so wrong so quickly? Electra was supposed to be spending the entire week with Denki and teaching him all about hero work, and instead, she was being escorted to a waiting room for the rest of the week while her kid was out there alone, probably terrified, and with no idea what to do next. It was about the worst way their bonding activity could have gone, honestly. The clone of ectoplasm that had picked her up opened the door to the waiting room and gave her what was probably supposed to be a reassuring smile, but really came off as more of a grimace, and Electra gave him the same expression before walking inside. The waiting room was fairly large, with a lot of couches, beanbags, and carpets for people to sit on, and there were a couple of large doors leading off to what looked like a kitchen and what was probably a sleeping area, and to her surprise, there were already a few people there. A kid with pink hair looked up, excitedly, and vaulted over the couch towards her. Hey, hero, villain, or civilian? Electra frowned. What? He gestured around the room. Welcome to the dead room. It's where they send everyone who gets taken out early. So I was just wondering what your role was. Here. He held out his hand. I'm Hiroshi Ta'amada. I was a civilian. After a moment, she shook his hand. Electra Kaminari. I was one of the fake villains. Tamada grinned. Cool. That means we've got the whole set. That shark boy over in the corner is one of the hero students. But he's not taking the whole death thing well. Neither am I, honestly, Electra sighed. My son's still in the exercise. We were supposed to do it together, but you know you can check up on him, right? Tamada said. After you die, you get to watch the rest of the exercise. Just like the teachers do. Really? She hurried to follow Tamada as he led her back to the couch. That's something, at least. Yep. Tamada dropped down onto the couch. It's on a bit of a delay, so you can see how you died, but here. He handed her a box with a pair of headphones and a remote. Each of the screens has a number, so if you want to hear the audio, just enter the number on the remote. Now that that's out of the way, let's find your kid. He squinted at the wall of screens before grinning and pointing to one of them. Hey, I found you! Electra looked at the screen he was pointing at and put on her headphones when she realized that she and Denki were walking to the warehouse. They were just talking about nothing, which was heartbreaking when she knew what was about to happen. She saw them rushing inside and then watched as she stupidly left her son and got herself killed. She had to admit that those kids were skilled, but it still stung for a pro hero to be taken out so easily. Ah, so you got taken out by the shadows too, Tamada nodded. They've taken out everyone who's died so far. Those two? Electra frowned. Really? Yep, Tamada shrugged. They got me before the heroes even got to the arena. I got killed by the purple one. You got killed by the green one, right? Yeah, Electra nodded. But it's the purple one I'm worried about. Oh, right, your son. Tamada squinted at the screen. Well, they look like they're not going to kill him yet. Or maybe they're just leading him away from the fight like they did with the hero. Honest I honestly can't tell what they're going to do next. Electra watched as the shadows lied to her son and told him that the heroes had killed her. Think he trusted them, of course. He'd always been so trusting. It was one of his most admirable qualities. But now she was terrified that he'd lose it. Once he realized the shadows had killed her, well, she just had to be there to help him pick up the pieces. It was supposed to be a bonding activity, after all. She just hoped it would be a bit more on the positive side. But she'd work with what she had. Shadows led Dinky and that other girl to their apartment to get some sleep before day two, and Electra forced herself to at least try to sleep on one of the beanbags so she'd be alert in the morning. She didn't dare go to the sleeping room yet, not until Denki was actually safe. She couldn't do much for her kid from beyond the grave, but she could watch over him until he died, too. She just knew it wouldn't be enough. Tamaki couldn't think. He could hardly breathe as the panic set in. What do you mean Hanzo's dead? Nijori gasped. We were just with him this morning. How do you know he's dead? Miro asked. I used my quirk to find his token, Shin grimaced. You know how the teachers said that if we die in the exercise, we're supposed to just leave our token on the ground? Well, we found his token, but Hanzo was nowhere to be seen. Mirio nodded numbly. Do we know who killed him? Shin shook his head. No idea. There weren't any clues at the scene, besides, well, red paint. It didn't look good. According to the rules of the exercise, we basically just found his corpse. Tamaki gulped. We need to do an investigation, don't we? Shin nodded. Everyone's having a meeting right now. You three are the last ones we were waiting on. They silently followed Shin to the meeting room. Even Nejire was quiet, which somehow made Tamaki more nervous than the fact that one of their classmates had just died. When they got to the meeting room, Muriel pushed open the door, and Tamaki almost stumbled backwards at the sheer chaos happening inside. It seemed like everyone was yelling at each other, and several people were almost coming to blows. What do you mean you don't know what he was doing? He was finding a lost kid. How is that on me? Well, you should have kept track of him better. Beside him, Mirio took a deep breath. Everyone, stop fighting! A shocked silence fell over the class. Look, I'm sure there's a lot of things we could have done differently, but the most important thing right now is to find out who killed Hanzo so it doesn't happen again. Right, Shido nodded once. But, not to be a downer, but how do you suggest we do that? There's literally no clues. Muriel thought back to the mysterious kid who had called them earlier. His information had panned out, and he sounded like he had an in with the villains, so he shook his head. He didn't want to put the kid in danger, so he would only use that as a last-ditch option. I don't know, but we're the heroes here. We'll think of something. It felt like Kyoka had just barely gotten to sleep when she felt Shinso shaking her awake. She glared at him, still barely awake, but he just smirked at her and moved on to Kaminari. Kyoka groaned and rubbed the sleep dust from her eyes as she looked for Midoriya, only to somewhat regret it when she found him. He had a permanent marker in his hand and was writing on the walls like some deranged mad scientist, which, from what she knew of him, probably wasn't too far off from the truth. She couldn't even decipher half of what was written, but she recognized some of the objectives, and there were lines leading to different places on the wall that had what Kyoka was pretty sure were names. Uh, Kaminari sounded just as freaked out as she felt. Dude, what's Midoriya doing? Don't worry about it, Midoriya said quickly, capping the marker. Are you two ready to train? Now? Kaminari shot her a glance. We did kinda just wake up. Shinso shrugged. Maybe. There's not really a lot of time to waste. We have a lot planned today, and we don't have time to spend the whole time with you two. Hitoshi, don't be rude, Midoriya hissed. But yeah, we don't have a lot of time today, but I really want to experiment with both of your quirks first. Kyoka was still exhausted, but didn't really trust him not to shoot her if she didn't agree, so she sighed and stood up. Fine, whatever, let's do this. Wait, we're really just jumping straight to training? Kaminari scrambled to his feet. Like, right now? Yep, Shinso grinned. Got a problem with that? Midoriya didn't wait for them to respond before launching a barrage of questions at Kaminari. Can you direct your electricity? How much can you produce? How much hand-to-hand do you know? Denki's eyes widened like a deer in headlights, and Shinso put a hand on Midoriya's shoulder. Slow down, Izuku. Give him a chance to answer first. Or better yet, just fight him and you can see for yourself. Right, Midoriya nodded and ran forward. Good idea. What? Kaminari stumbled backwards and started sparking. Now? Midoriya ducked around him to avoid the electricity, and Shinso smirked. Do you really think villains will wait for you to be ready, Sparky? Okay, okay. Kaminari eyed Izuku suspiciously as he grabbed the marker he'd been using earlier. Get ready, special attack! 1,000,000 volts! Whoa! Midoriya froze midway through throwing the marker. Hitoshi, stop him! Already on it. Even after Kaminari had gone limp under Shinso's hold, the air around them was still charged enough for Kyoka's hair to stand completely on end. Kaminari was really powerful, and she shuddered as she thought about what might have happened if Shinso hadn't been able to stop him in time. Drop your control, Midoriya ordered. Kaminari blinked. What just happened? Shinso gave him a completely done look. I just stopped you from seriously injuring all of us. Okay, I know some of your limits now. Midoriya hurried to grab a notebook. Uh, already? Kaminari stuttered. But I didn't even get to do anything. Midoriya was so caught up in his thoughts that he didn't even seem to hear him. Okay, so we need to work on quirk control and using small increments of electricity so that you don't have to go straight for the nuclear option. Battle awareness, too. That's going to be important. And also, since we're being villains here, we gotta need to stop calling out your attacks. And he kept talking in Kyoka's side. Welcome to the team. And that wraps up chapter 20 and 21 of Shadows, the Horror Movie Heroes by Clouds. My head's in the clouds, not coming down on AO3. Sorry if I sound a little stuffy, guys. It's allergy season where I live, and I could not delay recording any longer. Thank you guys so much for dropping by. I really appreciate you guys. And stay safe, stay cozy, and a restful hibernation to you all. See you soon. Bye bye.